Okay, and without any further ado, I want to go ahead and present Carlos Tejedo. He is a lender, a top producing lender with PRMG Dayland, and he is an expert at what he does. He's very good with a follow-up, with marketing, and he will help your clients get to their goal of purchasing a home. So Carlos, go ahead and let them know who you are.
What's going on, everybody? Can you hear me well?
Yes.
All right, Pablo, thank you so much for having me. Dennis, Manny, what's going on? I see you guys out there. Hello to everybody.
What up?
Faces recognized. What's up, Eddie? So I'm gonna stay on, Pop, just to see what the training's about, and then maybe I could chime in on other things as well. But thank you for that wonderful introduction. So we here at Paramount Residential Mortgage Group work hand in hand with lifestyle. So what we do is basically provide a way to get your clients qualified for the house that you're going to be showing them. So unless you have clients that are buying in all cash, you will need somebody like me, a licensed loan officer, to help guide you, every step of the way. The relationship that lifestyle and PRMG has created is, invaluable. Again, most of my deals about, year to date, we've already funded, I want to say like over 30 million, closed over like 100 deals. And I want to say that like 40% of that is with lifestyle. So, my hat's off to you guys. Thank you guys for always kicking butt and working with me. And as I mentioned, if there's anything I can do, please feel free to reach out. I want to stay on, just to hear, what Pablo's saying. And then maybe at the end I could, bring some insight as well. But for the most part, just to reiterate, I'm a licensed loan officer. Your clients will need to get pre-approved for a house if they're going to need financing. And you definitely want somebody on your side that is trustworthy, that could, take your clients by the hand just as you do, and, be able to take them to that closing table, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what we all want to do. So if there's anything I could do for you guys, just let me know, reach out to Pablo. I'll put my number in the chat. Follow me on Instagram, Miami's favorite lender. And I'm here for you guys day and night, 24/7.
Beautiful. Thank you, Carlos. First of all, before I start, thank you all for being here. We right now have 39 people in the Zoom training, and I'm very excited, very happy that you all could make it. And I think I'm gonna provide to you guys some good information regarding getting those documents signed by your clients. By what I want to do at the end, after I explain the listing agreement specifically, I want to pick one of you that can role play with me. So I want to show you exactly how I explain the listing agreement to a seller, so you guys know exactly how that goes, because there is a way of doing it without it being too lengthy, and you explaining exactly what your client is signing. Because sometimes your client may feel a little skeptical of what they're signing if they have a feeling that you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so I'll go ahead and explain that at the end. I'll pick one of you, and whoever wants to do it with me, we'll do it together. So the first thing we're gonna do, let me go ahead and share my screen. Here you go. So the first thing we're gonna do is do the lease agreement. And let me make sure that everybody is seeing this. Can everyone see this, the screen right now, transaction desk? Just give me thumbs up. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So so let's go to the lease agreement. And like I said, it's not the lease agreement when it comes to the lease that you get from a listing agent. No, I'm gonna go over the listing lease agreement, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do it from Transaction Desk, because it's the system that we are using right now. And in my opinion, it's way easier than Form Simplicity, Dot Loop, or any other documents that you can e-sign. So I'll show you how to get started on that right now. Give me 1 second. So when you log into Transaction Desk, you're going to be in this screen here. Okay, so this is your dashboard pretty much. And here's where you navigate to where you want to go. So the first thing we're gonna go is, we're gonna do is go to this little house here. If we open this up, the house is transactions. Okay, so this is where you're gonna create a transaction. So very simple. You click add, right? Sorry guys. Okay, so we're gonna click add, and then we're gonna name your transaction. Let's just put test here. Okay, the template we're gonna use, and I hope you guys understand what this means. Template is like your checklist that you're gonna use to either request a review for your listing or to get your commission paid. So you have different ones that you can pick from. So right now you're doing a rental listing, for example. So you're gonna click that one, and it's going to give you a checklist for you to upload those documents needed for a manager in your office to approve your listing in the MLS. Okay, so then here we don't pick anything import data because we don't have an MLS listing yet, and you are the listing agent, and leave this checked. Use Wizard, just leave it checked, and then you click create. Okay. After you click create, it's going to take you to something like this. Okay, so you click create and you upload all your, you follow through. You have 5 steps that you have to follow. I'm not going to go through that right now, but you guys can just do a test run in your transaction just to see how that looks like. It is super simple. And the document that we are going to use, we want to go here to forms, and the document that we're going to use is the exclusive right of lease agreement. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly how to fill that out. It's super simple and it's only 4 pages. So let's get right into it.
Pablo,
Yes.
is it possible for you to make that screen a little bit bigger?
You have to make it on your end, honey, because I can't make it
Okay.
bigger than what. Yeah,
Okay.
I think. Let me see. Actually, let me see. Let me see if this actually works. Let me know if you see a zooming in.
Yes.
Can you see it better now? Is that
Much
better?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So let's go one by one. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna go through is your client's name, obviously. So you're gonna put your client's name here, and in the second line, you want to put the broker. And I like putting it like this: Lifestyle International Realty, and then putting George Cancellation. And if your client asks, if they ask, why is there a different name there? Super simple. Remember that the agreement between the seller or the landlord is with the brokerage. You are the agent representing them, but the agreement is with the brokerage. Okay. Now in here, paragraph number 1, you're going to put the term of the lease or the contract that you're going to have with that landlord. And I typically do it for a year. Okay. You can definitely do it for less. If you like. I've seen people that do it for 2 months, 6 months, a year, and sometimes even more if it's a luxury deal. But I do it typically for a year. Okay. Then paragraph number 2 is going to talk about the address of the property. You want to, make sure you have your legal description and or the complete address of the property. Okay. If we go to ABC here, ABC is going to talk about the occupancy. So if the landlord is living in the property or not living in the property, you're going to click the one that applies. In here, in rental rate and terms, this is how you want the tenant to pay the rent. Typically, it's monthly. Okay, so I'm going to put here, let's say an example, $2,400 a month. And that's what I'm going to put there. Okay, everything else I leave empty. All right. If you want to maybe specify here what it includes, like for example, for this specific listing of mine, it includes Wi-Fi, water, and electricity. You may want to put that there, okay? Advanced rent, here's when you're gonna say how much, like how many deposits, deposits the tenant is going to need. So for example, I'm sorry, this is talking about where the owner is going to keep that security deposit. Typically, I pick in a non-interest bearing account unless your client tells you otherwise. So if they tell you they're going to put it in an interest bearing account that goes up 5% every single year, then you might want to pick that one. So just ask your client. Typically, and 99.9% of the time, it's a non-interest bearing account. Okay. So advanced rent. Here you're going to put how much you're going to need to get into contract with the landlord. So the advanced rent for in this case is going to be the last month at $2,400 and a security deposit of $2,400 as well. Okay, then you leave everything else empty unless it applies to your case. Like for example, let's say it is a pet deposit. You want to ask your client if it's refundable or non-refundable. Let's say it is non-refundable, and here you put the amount. Let's say it's $250. Okay, so you put that there. All right. Credit report fees, if your client wants to charge that, and association application fee, there's an association. Just put the fee there, and if there's other, and if there are other costs remaining regarding the application, put that there. I typically don't touch taxes or association approval. I just leave it empty, because at the end of the day, that once you get tenants in the contract to lease in the lease agreement, that's where you're going to put all the stuff with the association and you know, at the end of the day, taxes and association approval, it doesn't matter at the moment that you are listing the property. Then broker obligations, you want to click all of them, or you want to check all of them. It's just talking about your obligation with the landlord, and you know, you have to act with honesty. You have to make sure you present every offer, protect the property, showings, and it's going to talk about a bunch of stuff, and pretty much it's just saying, telling your client your obligation towards them. Okay. So before I continue to page number 2, any questions, guys?
Pablo, can you go over the interest bearing account part, please?
Of course.
I didn't get that part.
So the interest bearing account, so as you know, there's a security deposit. Okay. So a security deposit legally, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the landlord can do whatever they want. But legally, they're supposed to keep it in an account, in an account where, you know, when the tenant leaves, they return that money to the tenant. Now that the landlord does that, it's up to them. But they will be responsible for paying that back at the end of the term of the lease. Now, what this means is that ask your client, hey, are you gonna leave that money in a non-interest bearing account, or are you planning on putting it in an account that builds interest over time? So you pick the one or you know, your client tells you. Most likely than not, it's going to be a non-interest bearing account. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so anybody else before I continue? Just want to make sure that I clear all questions before I continue to page number 2.
Hello, I
Yes.
have a question. Hi, everyone. So correct me if I'm wrong. So for this lease agreement, first, this would be done after the offer contract is accepted.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
So would this lease agreement be done after the offer contract is accepted?
Okay, let's be clear.
Okay, go ahead.
No, Sierra,
Go
so
ahead.
this is actually a document for you to list the property.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, this is the listing agreement of a lease. Okay, now what you're talking about is the lease agreement. Once you send the contract to lease, then the listing agent will send you back a lease agreement But remember that listing agent has this document that we're going through right now, signed by the landlord.
Okay, I just confused it too.
Yeah,
Okay,
no
thank
problem.
you.
I know it is a little confusing, but I completely understand. Even finding the contract in transaction desk may be a little confusing because they're named the same pretty much. Okay, so there you go. Now let's go to page number 2. Okay, this section is just only talking about advertising, about you putting in the MLS, doing, putting in your websites, Facebook, and all that stuff. So you just explain that to your clients. Then you have here paragraph number 5, the owner obligation towards you. Remember, you both are going to have obligation, you as the representative and your client as the landlord. Okay, so pretty much I don't feel anything there. Everything stays just the way that it is. Just make sure that your client initials this area here. Okay, the contract will not be executed unless this area is initialed. Okay, now let's go to page number 3. This is where the commission comes from. Okay, now remember, as a leasing agent, your commission comes out of the first month. So if the first month is $2,000, your commission comes out of there, and typically it's 50% of that amount. So in here, says amount of compensation by owner is 100% of the first month rent. Now, 100% of the first month rent divided by 2 brokers if there's 2 agents involved in the transaction. Okay, everything else I leave empty. Okay, cooperation and compensation, this is where you split that 100%. So let's say that the tenant comes with an agent, they'll be responsible for 50%. They'll be entitled to 50% of the 100% that your client's already paid. If you find the tenant, you get 100%. You get 1 month completely to your account. And here, this is actually wrong. I put it should be 0%. This is for referrals. So let's say someone from another market, right, comes and tells you, oh, look, can you handle this tenant or whatever? And they give you the lead, but they're from another market, and they want a referral fee. They're not working it because you still have to build the lease. You have to work with the client, qualify the client because you're not here in this market. But you might want to give him 30% or anything like that. But I put 0% here because I want to negotiate that with the agent later on. I don't want to tie myself to a number right off the bat. Okay. So there you go. Early termination, paragraph number 8 is I put 200 typically to cover all my expenses, but you're more than entitled to do what you want with manager authorization. Like let's say you want to offer a 0 cancellation fee, you can do that. Just make sure you get that approved. And then you have paragraph number 9, which is talking about lawsuits. In a real estate transaction, seller, realtors, and buyer, in this case, landlord, tenant, and realtors can all be sued. Okay. For what? I mean, things can go wrong. I've never seen in a lease where it gets that bad. However, it's there, so all parties are aware of that. Okay. And then we have here a broker relationship, which is, if you guys already know that you have single agency and you have transaction broker, you always want to pick the transaction broker one in the case that you want to represent both sides. So here is your relationship with the seller when it comes to that. Okay. And at the end, it's just signatures. And remember that your client needs to initial and you every page. Okay. Any questions about this document, guys? So we're good there. We're clear on that. Cool. I just wanted to quickly go over this. I know it went really, really fast. If you guys have any questions, I'm actually going to go ahead and type my phone number here in the chat real quickly so you guys can call me if you need anything. But I just wanted to quickly go over it since we're going through listing agreements. Let me just put my number. All right, there you go. If you guys just want to save it, so that way you guys can call me if you guys have any questions at all about this listing lease agreement. Okay, let me close this up.
Hi, I do have a question before you go.
Yeah.
So bringing up commission can be a little tricky. I guess when talking to a client, it's like walking on eggshells.
Mhm.
How would you like approach it, or just to make them comfortable in a way for them to understand? Because maybe they don't understand how the commission works, you know, especially if they see another commission with a buyer's agent. You know, how would you approach?
Right. So when you sit down with your clients and you're discussing this agreement, it means that they have an interest in getting the property rented, which means that they are already considering paying commission. If you think and you have the mentality that they are paying you a certain amount, you have to find value in that. So the way that I would explain that is, you know, this is the commission comes out of the first month. Okay, and the way that I explain it is this. So your worst case scenario, you'll be paying a whole entire month. That's your worst case scenario, right? So from there, it just gets better. Maybe you want to tell them, okay, look, I'll charge you a little bit less in the case that, you know, I'm representing both sides. Wait, let me mute everybody. Okay, so in the case that you may want to maybe give them a break, if you're representing both sides, you can also do that. But don't think of expressing your commission and walking on eggshells because you are worth something. Remember, you are doing a service, and the service is to find a tenant and qualify that tenant for your client. Okay, so that is your job. Now, if there is a tenant that has representation, that agent also needs to be compensated, and you just explain it exactly like that. Okay, because there will be the procuring cost in that case. They brought the tenant to you. Okay. So I mean, the way to explain commission is it is a touchy subject. Well, the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get. And if you are sitting with a person already ready to list, ready to get it on the market, they're already thinking about talking about commission. And I'm going to tell you exactly, Sierra, because we're gonna go to the listing agreement now. In this case, in the listing agreement for a lease, it may be it's a slam dunk. I mean, it's just first month, and if there's two agents, it's split in two. Now in the listing agreement, where you get big bucks, right? They're paying 6% total of a sale of a property. I'm gonna show you exactly how to explain that part without any rebuttal, without absolutely, you know, or without them telling you, oh no, I'm not gonna pay that. There's a way of doing it, and for you to feel comfortable as well. Okay.
Thank you, Pablo.
Yeah,
Thank
you're welcome. And we're gonna get on it right now. So I'm not leaving. We're not done yet. I just wanted to touch base on this real quick before we go to the nitty gritty of the training, which is, you know, the listing agreement for sale of a home. So let's get into that right now. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so to create a transaction for a listing agreement, it's the same thing as the lease agreement that we just went through. Okay, so you're gonna click the little house, you're gonna click add a transaction, and then you're gonna name your transaction and pick the template. In this case, it'll be a sales listing, and you do not have the MLS number yet because it will not, you're creating the listing later on, and then you follow up the steps. So I'm gonna leave that right there, and let's go to one of my current listing agreements. Let's go to this one. I am going to show you a listing agreement, guys, that I actually have signed already. And this is a real transaction going on right now with me. Okay, so let me expand this real quick so you guys can see it. Okay, can everyone see what I'm doing here? Right, can everybody see the listing agreement in front of you? Can you guys see it well?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's go and before I start, guys, I'm gonna have a training which is called a listing presentation. Okay, that's gonna be, I believe, next week. I did it this way because I want everyone that's here to attend that listing presentation training. Now, you already should know how to write up a contract, okay? So if you guys can all make it to the listing presentation, it's going to be live actually in the Kendall office. If you guys can make it to that listing presentation training, I'm going to teach you exactly how to go through a listing presentation successfully, get this document signed, and I'm also going to teach you how to like what I call the 5 agreement points. So if you go through agreement number 1, agreement number 2, and agreement number 3, it means that you're going in the right direction when it comes to getting this document signed. And it goes back to Sierra, what we were talking about, you know, talking about commission. So if Sierra, if you can, try to make it next week to the listing presentation training, because it'll help you a lot. But the first thing is first, you got to know how to write up the contract, which is why I did it this way. Okay, I wanted to go through the contract first and then listing presentation. Now, let me tell you a little trick, okay? So if you guys see here the numbers, right? So you have numbers and you have paragraphs. So you have paragraph number 1 and paragraph number 2, and then you have line number 1 and line number 2. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah? Okay, so when I say paragraph, I'm talking about paragraph number 1. I'm talking about this area here. And when I say line, let's say line 18, I want you to look to the line 18 and go there, okay? Now, if you see, there's asterisks on some of the numbers, okay? What that means is that that's the important parts of this contract. Those are the part that you need to make sure you fill out, okay? Not all of them, but it's a good guide to have, okay? In the case that you get stuck in front of your client and you wanna make sure that you got everything, you know, everything executed. So let's go to line number 1. Let's just say the listing agreement between both parties. Line number 2 and line number 3 is talking about the sellers and the brokerage that you guys are doing the agreement with. Okay, so paragraph 1 is talking about the time that you're gonna have this listing agreement for. So I typically do a year, as you can see here, okay? However, I do this, you don't have to, but I do give a 0 cancellation fee to my client. So when I'm explaining this to my client, I say, okay, listen, we're gonna do an agreement for a year. However, let me take you to this page real quick. And as you can see here, I'm charging you, paragraph 11, I'm charging you $0 for you to cancel this agreement, which means that you can cancel at any time. So the date no longer becomes an issue, because if you can cancel at any time, the date doesn't really matter. Now, if that's really important to them, then you ask, hey, how long do you want to have this agreement for? And if they say 6 months, 2 months, whatever it takes, okay? Whatever it takes for you to get that listing signed, because it'll be easier for you later to get it extended after you already have that relationship with the seller. So there you go. Now, paragraph number 2, line 13 and 15 is talking about the address and the legal description of the property. Does anyone know where to find the legal description of a home? Or actually, let me ask you this. Does anyone doesn't know? So everybody knows where to find it.
Pablo, I don't.
No, I don't.
Okay, no, good. So let me show you right now. So let's say here, let's open it up. So if you're in Miami-Dade County, you're gonna go to miamidade.gov. If you are in other counties like Broward, you're gonna go to Broward County, right, to find the legal description. So let's go here to property search. So you're gonna go to miamidade.gov, and miamidade.gov is gonna have an option for property search, and that's where you're gonna put the address to find the legal description. So let's put let's use this house as an example. Okay, so let's actually, let me show you exactly where to get it from miami-dade.gov so you guys know how to navigate the system. All of you should know what miami-dade.gov is. All of you, okay? So this is, so when you put miami-dade.gov, this is where you land. So from here, I think it's where you land. Never mind, not here. Let me take this off and let's start from fresh. Okay, so this is where you land when you go to miami-dade.gov, right? So then when you go down, okay, so when you go down here, you're gonna have something that says property search. So you click there. Sorry, it's a little slow. So from here, now you're gonna click this little button here that says property search, and you're gonna land to that page that we were just at right now. Okay, so from here, super simple. All you're gonna do is just paste the address, click enter, and you're gonna make sure that this are your clients, right? And then you're gonna click the folio number, and the folio number is gonna take you to this. So you're gonna see a map where the property is located. You're gonna see all the specs about the home, and when you go a little more down, you're gonna find something that says full legal description. So you're gonna literally just copy and paste all of this into your contract. Okay, make sense? Cool, so let's go back to the contract. All right, so this is where you, so as you guys can see, I just literally just copy and pasted the legal description from miami-dade.gov. Okay, so let's go now to line number 20. Line number 20 is going to talk about the occupancy of the property. So if your client lives in the home, then you're going to put it's not currently occupied by a tenant. If it's rented and your client's an absentee owner, then you want to put property is, you're going to check this box, is occupied by a tenant, and you want to ask when the lease expires so you can put that in your listing, and it's also for you to know how to negotiate the deal later. Okay, now let's go to paragraph number 3 when we talk about financing and as well as the price that you're going to list the property. I learned this from Manny, and I liked his idea, which I'm doing that. I'm doing this right now. If you guys don't know Manny is one of the partners in the Kendall office. So here in paragraph number 3, as you can see, you have a bunch of little asterisks, and I'm gonna tell you why, because you need to fill all this out. So letter A, line 22 is talking about pricing. Now, as you can see, I recommended this client to list at 480. Why? Because of my comparable analysis, which we're going to talk in the listing presentation training next week. So my comparable analysis told me that the property should be listed at 480 according to comps, right? So my client didn't want to do that. My client wanted to list higher, surprise. So they wanted to list at 550. Now, what I did is that I came to her house with the price already written, right? And when we agreed at 550, I said, yeah, sure, okay, I'll get an overpriced listing any day. So what I do is that I scratch the price that I recommended, then I write down the price that they want, and then I have all parties initial. Now, why did I do that? Because I want to keep track of the number that I recommended my client. So later on, when the property doesn't sell the price that she wants, I'm going to say, look, I recommended this price. Here you go. It's not my fault. It lands on you. Okay? It just takes the liability away from you. So I like that idea that Manny gave me, so I'm using it now. Line 23 is going to talk about the type of financing that a person can buy the property with. So in this case, cash, conventional, VA or FHA may apply. Now, yes, 550 may be higher than the FHA limit. That's fine, but you can have a buyer that has a lot of capital and can put the difference between the max approval of FHA and the difference. I can put the difference between the purchase price and between 550 and the max FHA cap. The same thing with VA, conventional, you're good there, and cash, always you can put cash, okay? Now, let's say your client wants to do some type of seller financing. You have the option here to click seller financing and put the specification. Let's say your client wants to do seller financing, you can put the amount or how much maximum they want to finance, and then you can put the terms. You want to say maybe, oh, they'll finance 15-year loan with a 6% down payment, let's say something like that. And you may want to put that here, okay? However, if you don't, and then later on in the deal may turn that way, or if you want to, you know, offer that to a buyer later on, you can. You don't have to put it here, okay? And then in this area, it's talking about on assumable the assumption of an existing mortgage, okay? So I am doing a deal right now, actually, that the buyer is assuming a mortgage, the mortgage that my client currently has. Okay, now remember, the lender needs to agree on that, and it needs to go through an approval process. In this case, for my client, she got a private lender, so the lender is willing to do that for the new buyer, okay? So that's what it's talking about in paragraph number 3. It's talking about the numbers. Paragraph number 4 is talking about the broker obligation to the seller. And paragraph number 5 is just saying that the seller, your client, allows you to list the property in the MLS, in the multiple listing service. Okay, guys, I spoke about a lot in this page. Do any of you have any questions before I continue?
Pablo, I have a question.
Yes.
So, if the seller wants to give or wants to sell the house at a higher price, do you give them a 2 weeks wait period to see if you receive any offers on that? Or
Right.
what do you do?
Yes, I do. So we talk about that in my, how do you call this? We talk about that in the listing presentation. So
Okay.
let's say, you know, the way that I sell houses now, and all of you can have your own way of doing it. I like listing properties on Thursdays just because the psychology behind it. So if I have a property that goes live on Thursday and I have an open house on Saturday, I don't give the buyer a lot of time to think. So as soon as the property comes live, they see the home, they fall in love with the pictures, then they want to go to the open house society to go see it in person, right? So what that creates is a sense of urgency. I want to maximize my time, and I want a lot of people to go to the open house. So for that, although I sign the agreement on Sunday, I'll wait till Thursday to list it. And now I'll mention that in the contract and in my listing agreement so that we're all on the same page. But I told my client, look, if in the open house, we don't have the turnout that we want, and we do not receive any offers and no showings in the following week, then I would like to sit down with you at that moment to see what's the best strategy that we can use to either improve the price or do an extra or different marketing. Okay, so I use the word improve. I don't use the word dropping. You know, I don't say drop the price. The same thing with the agreement, with the listing agreement. I don't call it a contract. I call it an agreement between me and the seller. Why? Because contract sounds scary. It's like, oh my God, a contract. What does that mean, right? So you don't want you may want to stay away from that word. The same thing with dropping. When you say, oh, drop the price, it's like, you know, they get defensive. But when you say price improvement, then it sounds a little bit better. Make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else before I continue, guys? Cool.
Hey, Pablo, what's up, man? Yeah, one question.
Oh, what's up, Chris?
When you're talking about assuming the mortgage, can you go over that a little bit? I understand that some properties have a mortgage that isn't paid off. Is that what you're assuming when you?
Well, most properties do. Most
Mhm.
properties still they have a current mortgage that the seller is paying. So you have the option for the buyer to assume that mortgage. Okay. So how it would work is, for example, so the property wants to be sold for, which is tricky though, and I don't know how a person would do that in with all honesty, because in my deal that I'm doing right now, I'm selling the property for 2.35 million, right? And that and my client has a $700,000 mortgage. Now, what I'm doing is that in the $700,000 mortgage, they're assuming that, but I'm deducting that from whatever they're going to seller finance. So my client is seller financing 1.6 million. Okay, that's how I'm doing it there. Now, for a house, let's say that they owe, I don't know, 100,000, they're doing two loans technically. So they're assuming the current mortgage that they have with the bank and the seller has, but they also have to get their loan to get approved for the purchase of the home. Okay, so it's two loans that they're doing it. That they're doing now. What the seller may want to do is, because she no longer is going to have a payoff, right? Which means that she's going to be netting a lot more money. Is that if the seller owns to the bank $100,000 and the client is buying the property for 200,000, right? Then you may want to deduct the 100,000 from the $200,000 price, and they will only have to get a loan for 100,000 on the remaining amount. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's technically how it would work, because remember, when your client sells a property or when a seller sells a property, they'll have whatever the sales price is and they'll deduct the payoff. So if whatever they owe to the bank out of the proceeds of the sale of the property, that will be paid to the bank. So since no longer is going to be a payoff, the seller is netting more, which means that you can drop the price, the offer price, which might be beneficial to the buyer.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you're welcome. Okay. So let's go to page number 2. Okay. Page number 2. Let's talk about paragraph number 6. So this is the same thing as the other contract that we're going over. It's talking about marketing. So it talks about here how you're gonna do your for sale sign, how you're gonna, put it in your websites, Facebook, YouTube. It's just the seller allowing you to do all that stuff, all that type of marketing, because you have to disclose that, right? Now, what was it I was gonna say? So remember, in this area, you have to have that sign, which is a little tricky, which is why I'm mentioning it. Because if you don't get this area signed, the contract is not fully executed. But you don't have an asterisk like the other places here. So you got to make sure that where it says the obligation here, you get that portion signed. Okay. And then we're gonna have paragraph number 7 is the seller's obligation towards you. They got to be honest. They got to make sure they tell you the true condition of the property, and just work with good intentions. Okay, paragraph number 8 is going to talk about commission. Okay, in this case, we're talking about 6%, which is what I charge my client. So paragraph number 8, line 109, you want to put here the total amount that your client is going to be paying. Total amount, which is 6%. Okay. Then let's go here to line 122. This is your protection period. Okay. So your protection period is, for example, you do an open house, let's say, right? A buyer comes into the open house, likes the home, but the seller wants to be tricky, right? The seller says, oh, Pablo, look, let's cancel the agreement. You gave me a 0 cancellation fee, let's cancel it. But what you don't know is that buyer that went to your open house went after the open house was done and talked directly with the seller and said, hey, listen, forget your realtor. You and I do a deal, right? That's not right. That's illegal, right? So that technically, that buyer came because of your marketing, because of you putting in the MLS. You're still entitled to your commission. So if that buyer buys the property and ends up buying the property, obviously, you have to follow up. You have to make sure that you follow with the property, follow when it closes. And the way that I would do this is, let's say that happens to me. I won't mention it to the seller. I'll let the property close, right? So when it closes, if it's within those 60 days that I have on the contract, guess what? I'm filing a lawsuit for my commission. And 10 out of 10, you'll get it because it's still under that time. Now, if you have to have track of the people that come into your open house. So this is what I'm saying, that when you do have an open house, you have to have a signing sheet. Okay, have a signing sheet and make sure you get that signing. If you think for some reason that's what's going on, keep track until the property closes. Okay. Retain deposits. Line 127 is talking about the escrow deposit that the buyer puts as to show skin in the game. So when you send a property to purchase, when you send an offer, sorry, to purchase a home, you're going to have a deposit, an escrow deposit. That escrow deposit, in the case that the buyer cannot close and cannot perform, then that deposit is divided into you and the seller. Why? Because you did your job, right? It is not your fault close, so you're still entitled to get some type of compensation, because now you have to work harder and you have to work and you have to get the property on the contract again. You have to put it in the market, do your marketing, and do all that stuff. Make sense? So after that, so we're here. All right. So now paragraph number 9. This is where you split your commission, guys. Okay. In here, out of the 6% total that you're charging your client in this section, you're going to divide it in section number 9, in paragraph number 9. And to be specific, line 133 through 136. Okay, so let's say number 1, let's read it together. So brokers' office policy is to cooperate with all other brokers except when not in seller's best interest, and to offer compensation in the amount of 3% of the purchase price. Since you put 3%, you don't have to put a number here, to a single agent for the buyer, which means that you're paying 3% to the buyer's agent. Okay, let's keep reading. 4% of the purchase price to a transaction broker for the buyer. That means that me as the listing agent, if I'm representing the buyer as well as the seller, I become a transaction broker. Okay, so I'm only going to charge my client a 4% total instead of a 6%. Okay, now let's keep reading. And 3%, this is wrong. Please don't pay attention to this. It here should say 0. Okay, and 0% of the purchase price to a broker who has no brokerage relationship with the buyer, meaning that if you have to pay out a referral. So if there's a guy from North Carolina, give me 1 second. Okay, so let's go back to what we were. So right here, if the broker, meaning the realtor, does not, like, yes, they have a relationship with that buyer, but then they're not here, they're not from here. So they're literally saying, look, Pablo, here's the buyer, they want to buy the house, you deal with it, right? It's, you handle the whole transaction between the buyer and the seller. Yeah, you're a transaction broker in that point, but since a realtor referred you that client, you may want to pay my referral fee. So I leave it 0% because I don't want to, like in the other contract, I don't want to tie myself to a number. I want to negotiate that later on in the case that happens. All right. Broker's relationship is just you letting them know that you're going to act honestly, that you're going to go ahead and present to them every single offer that comes in, and just act with the best interest in mind. And remember, you do have a fiduciary relationship with your client. Now, let's say you're a transaction broker, meaning that you're representing both sides, right? Who do you have? And I ask, and if somebody knows this, please unmute yourself. Who do you have a fiduciary relationship with? The seller or the buyer?
The seller.
Yes and no, right? Because let's say, Humberto, that I'm the buyer and you're representing the seller, and I'll tell you, oh, Humberto, what do you think I should offer? What are you going to tell me?
But they have an agent. They have an agent as well, no?
They have no agent.
No, but your fiduciary duties with the seller, no, because you're representing the seller. And then
I
if they ask
understand.
for,
Yeah, but remember, you're also representing the buyer.
no.
Yeah.
I don't
So
think there's any fiduciary duties to either of them
To
since
both.
you're representing both.
To
correct.
both of them.
No, you don't have fiduciary to both of them. You can. So let's say, for example, the appraisal comes in lower, right? You can't really tell them what to do to both parties. You can guide them, you can give them your opinion, but you can't really tell them what to do. They have to make their own decisions, because if you say something, no, oh, look, if you say something to the buyer, that's gonna not represent the seller the best way. And if you say something to the seller that is not going to represent the buyer the best way, then it's a conflict. Okay. So when you become a transaction broker, you're only there to handle the transaction, make sure that it closes, and you have to be very political when it comes to give them an advice and telling them what to do. Does that make sense?
Right. It makes sense.
Okay. So there you go. So now let's go to paragraph 11. Paragraph 11 is talking about a cancellation fee. We spoke about that in the beginning. I put 0. You're more than entitled to put whatever you want, but I put 0. Why? Because, man, I mean, if I get a listing, I want to sell it, you know? So I don't care really what number is there, as long as I'm sure that the property is going to get sold. And it removes the fear, right? It removes the fear. So it means that, oh, you know, if I change my mind to sell the property or whatever, right? I can back out, me as a seller, right? Yes, you can. It removes the fear. So you're going to get this contract signed just because of that, right? And then paragraph 12 is the same thing as the other contract. What this means is that, you know, all parties in the transaction can get sued. And it's there not because it's going to happen, but it's there so everybody is aware that in a real estate transaction, lawsuits can happen. Okay. And then the last part is just signatures. Now, do not worry about this part. I'm not even going to go over it because this is my team's value proposition. This is what I present to the sellers as to, you know, you don't even have to read it, but you don't have to put anything in the additional terms when it comes to the listing agreement. That's all I wanted to say. Okay. So this is pretty much it, guys. The contract is that simple to fill out. What I recommend you guys is after this training, go grab yourself a listing agreement, fill it out on your own and start practicing. And if you have any questions, please call me or text me so I can answer it the best way that I can. We are going to do a role play now with one of you. So that way I'm going to show you exactly how I would present this contract to the seller so the seller can get it signed without any rebuttal. And you can see how that's done. Now, do you guys have any questions before I do that? All right, so everybody's clear. Okay, so who wants to role play with me? Come on, somebody needs to say yes.
I'll do it.
You do it? Okay, Eduardo.
Yeah.
So in this case, thank you, by the way. So in this case, you're going to be the seller. I'm going to be the realtor. So if you want, make it tough for me, ask me questions, put yourself in the mind of a seller. let's give these people, you know, a good role play so that way they can understand. So any questions that may come up, as hard as they can be, throw in my way. I'm gonna see how I handle them, and that way they can all learn from that. All right. I feel confident that I'll be able to answer them all because I've done this many times. But you never know. Maybe you have questions that's gonna throw me completely out of my game, and I might not be able to answer. So hopefully that happens too, so I can learn from you as well. So let's say there is a way to this, guys. You present this at the end, okay? After you run your comps, after you go through your seller's net sheet, after you tell the client exactly what you're going to do with this to sell their home for a premium, okay? After you get all that out of the way, which we will go over in my listing presentation training, after you go through all of that, it's that you want to bring this agreement out. And there's a process and there's a way to this thing, to do this, okay? It's not a guessing game, which is why I'm going to focus on my next training. I want to make sure that you guys understand what you're going to expect at a listing presentation. Because here's the thing. Yeah, we represent a lot of buyers. Yes, we're buyers agents, but listings is where the money is at. It's a better life quality. You do not have to work weekends, right? So you don't have to be showing properties left and right. And at the end of the day, you have the gold. When you have the listing, you have the money, right? Buyers are really unloyal. It is not rare to show a buyer 10 homes and then you follow up with them on Monday. Hey, you want to make an offer? Oh no, we just put a contract on a pre-construction. Okay, thanks for telling me. I show you 10 homes on Saturday and I wasted my time with you. Thank you. So that can happen. In a listing, it cannot, because you have the gold. You have the power. The buyers come to you. You just wait for them. Okay. So and this is also, think about this. You can handle probably 4, 5, 6, 10 listings at the same time. You cannot work with 10 buyers at the same time. That is guaranteed. Okay, so the income is also bigger. All right. So let's go through this, guys. And Eduardo, we're sitting in the dining table. Okay, so picture yourself. We're sitting in the dining table in your house. You already showed me the property. I already went through my listing presentation. I've already gone through the seller's net sheet, so you know exactly how much you're going to be netting for the home, and we have already agreed on price. So all I'm going to show you here is I want to present to you this contract so you know exactly what you're going to be signing. You ready? Okay. So let's start. Okay, Eduardo. So this is the agreement between you and me. And what I would like to do is that in the case that this contract makes total sense to you, I would like to get it signed today so I can start with the process of getting your home sold. Sounds fair?
Sounds good.
Cool. So let's go through the first page, Eduardo. So in the first page, very simple. Line 1, 2, 3 is going to talk about the names. So you and your wife, and the agreement with Lifestyle International Realty, which is the brokerage that I have my license with. Just to confirm.
Does my wife have to be on? Does my wife have to be on there? She doesn't get involved in any of this.
Well, if your wife is in the deed, so according to Miami-Dade.gov, Eduardo, your wife is included. So unfortunately, yes, she does have to sign this contract. She does have to be involved because you guys are still legally married. Make sense?
Yeah, but I have a prenup.
Well, you have a prenup. Well, let me ask you this: did you buy the property after you guys got married?
Yeah.
Okay, so legally you could you cannot have a prenup. If you had a prenup, Eddie, she will not be in the deed. Makes sense? Because if she's in the deed, that means that she signed with you at closing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Good question, though. Good question.
All right.
Okay, so in this case, since there's two people, let's just guess that I'm talking to you and your wife, okay?
Yeah.
So at this moment, I'll ask, hey, Eddie, are their names correct? Just wanted to confirm that the names are your names. They're spelled correctly, yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect. So now let's go to paragraph number 1, Eddie, and this is the term of our agreement. Okay, so I typically do 1 year, but wait, because I want to show you something first. Let's move forward to page number 3. So in page number 3, Eddie, I give you a 0 cancellation fee. Okay, I have to put a date on that first page, but please understand that you can cancel at any time if your plans change. Is that fair?
Okay, so it's gonna take a year to sell my property?
No, sir, that's not what I mean. I'm actually planning on having your property sold this weekend after we get this agreement signed. However, I do have to put a date here. This is just our agreement. Let's say the property doesn't sell like I want to over the weekend, then I would have 1 year to get that property sold, but you are free to cancel at any time in the case that it's taking too long. If I don't get your property sold within 30 days, Eddie, I'm not a good realtor, okay? So paragraph number 2, Eddie, is talking about the address of the home. Just wanted to confirm with you that this is your complete address.
Yeah.
Yep, excellent. Eddie, personal property, let's talk about that. Do you want to exclude anything with the sale of the home, or is everything included?
Right. I built a tiki in the back.
Mhm.
Do I put that there? Can I?
You can take it. That's your property. We just have to make sure we put it here in this contract, Eddie, so I can also when I get a contract, I can include it in the as-is contract, which is a purchase contract, and everybody knows that that's not going to be included with the sale of the property. So you want to go ahead and you want me to put here that you want to take the ticket with you?
Yeah.
I'm asking. Yeah. Okay, cool. Perfect. So let's say just for the purpose of the training that I wrote it there. I will write it with a pen if you guys want to know. So boom.
So
Now,
but anything that's attached to the property can't be taken though, right?
yes, you can. So you can take appliances, you can take lamps, you can take whatever you want as long as you disclose that.
Okay.
Yeah. So if, let's say you wanted to take your stove, or you wanted to take the fridge, or whatever, or the washer and dryer, you can. You just have to make sure you let the buyer know.
Okay.
Okay. So occupancy, Eddie, you live in the property, obviously, so that's why I put a check mark here that it's not currently occupied by a tenant. And paragraph number 3, Eddie, since we already agreed in price, I advised you, according to my comparable analysis, that we should get the property sold for 480. However, as we previously discussed, we agreed on 550. I'm just going to have you initial next to the price. And with financing terms, Eddie, because of the price of the property, the buyer can come with any type of financing. They can come with cash, conventional, VA, or FHA. Do you have any questions about this part, Eddie?
Not about this part. I don't want to make it too complicated. But
No. Ask it away. This is exactly what I want.
I know you already talked about the price. You said we already, agreed on the pricing. So that's why, because I was going to say, my neighbor just got under contract for 700. Can we increase that price?
Okay, perfect. Yes, that's a good question for the listing presentation, but let me handle that discussion. The first thing I'm going to ask, okay, Eddie, let's do something. I'll pop my computer and I'll say, give me the address of your neighbors, right? So I'll pop it in, and then I'll start comparing. Look at how the square footage, look how many bedrooms they have. Okay, look at the year that they built, right? So I will start comparing, and then I'll ask, do you think your neighbor's home is like yours, right? And then they'll themselves would answer that question. Oh no, look, it's a little bigger. Okay, that's the reason why they sold us 700. Okay, remember, we have to, and I will say this, we have to think as an appraisal. Most likely than not, the buyer will come with financing. And if they come with financing, there's going to be an appraiser involved in the transaction that's going to determine value. So if I don't think like that, Eddie, we're going to be wasting our time because we're going to list way too high. Number one, the property is not going to sell. We're going to have to look or to drop the price. Number two, and that looks really bad in this market. And number three, you're not going to be happy with me. You're going to think that I'm doing a bad job, even though you're the one asking me to list at a higher price. I'm going to be the one at fault. Okay, so I want to make sure that I don't lie to you and that I accomplish exactly what I'm promising you. Make sense? So that's how we'll handle that, you know? Okay, so there you go. And then I will go and say, and Eddie, paragraph number 4 and paragraph number 5 are just simply talking about my obligation to you as your representative and you allowing me to list the property in the MLS. Fair enough?
Yep.
Okay. Then let's go to page number 2. And Eddie, as we previously discussed before, I'm going to do some type of marketing with the property. So, you know, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Instagram ads, as well as, you know, blast emails, for sale signs, flyers, open house. I'm going to do all of that to get your listings, your house sold for a premium. And I just need your initials here so I can go ahead and so you can authorize me to do that. Okay. That's how we'll explain that part. Paragraph number 7, Eddie, is your obligation towards me. So I need you to be honest. You know, I need you to be honest when it comes to a buyer knocking on your door because of my for sale sign. You know, I need you to tell me, hey, they came to the property, handle it from there. Okay, I need you to be honest with the condition of the property. Okay, if the property is not, if it had mold before, if you know it had termites, please let me know so I can disclose that to the new buyer. Okay, we don't want to be in a situation that we get the property sold and we knew about that and then they can come back and sue you. We want to avoid that at all costs. Make sense? Cool. So that's what paragraph 7 is about, Eddie. Now let's go to the most important part, commission. I know we already discussed this, but I want to explain to you exactly how it's going to be divided. Okay, so paragraph number 8. It's going to talk about commission. So don't worry too much about this area here. I just want you to focus on that 6%. What that means is that is the total that you're going to be paying for the transaction completely. You're not going to be paying more than 6% ever, no matter if the buyer comes with a realtor or not. Make sense? Okay. So that's what the 6% is. Now let me explain to you this number 60 here, Eddie. I'm not saying that you're going to be this type of client, but it's happened to me in the past. Let's say that a buyer comes in while you and I are in agreement, and the buyer wants to be tricky. So the buyer waits for me to leave, let's say after the open house, and comes and talks to you to try to buy the property directly from you. It sounds pretty good. Then you go ahead and comes back to me and you fire me, right? For no reason whatsoever. That's gonna light up a light bulb on my head. So I'm gonna make sure that I follow up with this property. If the property for some reason closes with that buyer that came through my open house, then I'm still entitled to my commission if they close, if you got on the contract and close within 60 days. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now I'm not saying you're gonna do that, but you know, I have to have some type of protection. Okay.
What if you know, my primo comes to me and I sell it on my own?
If you bring the buyer?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you find me the buyer, now let's be transparent with this, Eddie. So I have a for sale sign. I'm gonna have a for sale sign in front of the property. I'm gonna do an open house and I have it listed in the MLS. So if a person comes knocking on your door because it's on my for sale sign, I'm still the procuring cost of that buyer. Okay. Well, now let's say you meet somebody in public. So you have a family member that wants to buy your house and they end up buying it. Then I will only charge you 1% total to handle the whole entire transaction. And you only be paying 1% total completely. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Sounds
so good. Perfect. So now let's talk about line 127 over here, Eddie. So this 50%, what that means is just that when we receive an offer, the buyer's going to put a deposit. If we pass every type of contingency within that contract and the buyer does not buy the property for any reason whatsoever, we keep that deposit. Now that deposit is split between you and me. Is that fair?
Okay.
Okay. So paragraph number 9, I split that 6%, Eddie. So let's look at that for a second. So in paragraph number, as you can see here, you're gonna be paying total 6%. But if we split it here, this is how it's distributed. So we're gonna pay 3% to the buyer's agent, right? So it will be 3 and 3. Let's say the buyer comes without any representation. I'm gonna give you a 2% discount out of the 6%, but I'm gonna give myself a 1% increase because I'm gonna be working harder. I'm gonna be working with both sides. And if a buyer, if a realtor sends me a client so I can handle the transaction, I will have to give him a referral fee, but I'm gonna put 0% here because I'll negotiate that later on from my commission. You will not be affected on that. Fair enough? Cool.
Okay.
So paragraph number 10 is just the relationship that I'm gonna have with you. So I have a fiduciary relationship with you, which means that I have to act accordingly and I have to work with your best interest in mind. All right. And we already spoke about the zero cancellation fee. And paragraph number 12, Eddie, is only talking about that, you know, as you may already know, in a real estate transaction, all parties can be sued. Me, you, the other realtor, and the other realtor, buyer, also title companies, lenders can all be sued in the transaction. I'm not saying that's going to happen, Eddie, but I'm just saying it because it can happen. Okay. All right, Eddie. So I'm just gonna go ahead and have you initial every single page. Remember to initial page number 2, and where it says about the marketing, and please give me your signature at the end of the page. And that's it. That's how I would explain this contract. Very simple. You don't have to read it verbatim. It typically, from my experience, when I explain it this way, I don't have any questions whatsoever by the client. I'll have the questions exactly what Eddie asked. Those type of questions will definitely come, but I'm explaining it. I'm taking away the fear of what they're signing. And if you explain it, it's better for you. You look at the you look as an expert, right? You look like if you know exactly what you're talking about. And I don't have to read this contract verbatim, and they don't have to sit down there reading it as well, which that would take a long time. Okay, so before I let you go, guys, we've been here for 1 hour and 20 minutes. I know it took a little bit long, but this is very important for you guys to learn. So before I go, any questions, guys?
You know when you're doing that the listing presentation next week?
Yes, my listing presentation training is going to be, tell you right now, it's going to be, actually, it's not next week. It's on the 23rd of November. It's a Tuesday. So no next Tuesday, the following.
Okay.
Okay. And it's going to be 6 from 7 p.m. It's going to be a nighttime because I want to make sure that you guys get all your deals done, all your showings, everything done. And then we meet at the office at 6. Should be nighttime by that time. And we can sit down, I'll order some food so we can, you know, have some food there together. And we are going to do role playing. Okay, we're gonna, you know, I'm gonna pick on you guys. So be ready. Do not come being scared or afraid. If you're gonna be afraid and you don't want to participate, stay home. Okay, and I mean that in the best way possible. But I need you to, I'd rather you make a mistake with me and ask these stupid questions with me than with your client. Okay, I'm not gonna judge you. I'm not gonna laugh at you. I might laugh a little, but you know, I'm not gonna laugh at you. But I just want you guys to understand. You guys need to take away the fear. Don't worry about the fear. Don't worry about being embarrassed. Leave that at home, because if you continue being that way, you are not gonna succeed in this business. And the way to take away the fear is by doing what we're doing right now, what we're gonna do on the 23rd, by role playing, making sure that you get your objections handled, making sure that you know, I'm gonna ask you questions that a seller will ask you, and you are going to, you know, become a master at your craft. Okay. Any other questions, guys? All right. So it seems like everybody understands how to write an agreement. Please, guys. I don't know if I'm going to do this, but I'm recognizing some faces. If you go to my training on the 23rd, I'm going to give you a listing agreement contract. I'm going to have you fill it out in front of me. Okay. So if you do not know how to fill it out in front of me, then I'm gonna have you review this training again. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to stay an hour and 24 minutes doing what we just spent right now again. So practice. I literally, guys, have been, I practice with my wife. Humberto, he's seen my team. He's seen this training. He's practiced with me. He's getting ready to practice with his family. Do listing agreements with your families, with your friends, and practice. Get in front of a mirror and practice this type of conversations, because that's the only way you are going to get better. Okay. And well, guys, thank you so much for attending. I hope everything was informational. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything else. I know Carlos, I don't know if you're still there, if you wanted to say something. But if not, guys, thank you so much. Like I said, this is going to be recorded. I will send it to you guys later on, and have a wonderful day. Let's go kill it.
Thank you, Pablo.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Pablo.
You're welcome,
Thank
guys. Be
you,
safe.
thank you.
Appreciate it,
Bye-bye,
my boy.
bye-bye. You got it, brother.